How to become someone else in 7 steps. They say change takes years, but what if I told you that's a lie? That you can actually transform yourself so deeply and so quickly that even the people closest to you will stop and ask, "What happened to you?" I'm not talking about magic tricks or cheap self-help gimmicks. I'm talking about a strategic, almost invisible process that builds a brand new reputation from the inside out. The problem is that most people try to change the wrong way. They swap out the packaging but keep the same contents. It's like a bad cake with pretty frosting. Looks great from the outside, but one bite and you know nothing's different. And that's why so many fail at personal rebranding. They ignore the core issue, which is changing behavior, consistency, and personal standards until the change becomes impossible to deny. And here's the detail most people don't want to admit. To become a different person in a short period of time, you have to be willing to do what most people avoid. You'll need to shake up your environment, your routine, your friendships, and most of all, you'll have to face pain head-on. But if you do that, you won't need to announce it. The world will notice on its own. Now, if you want to understand exactly how this transformation happens step by step, stay with me, because I'm going to show you. Step 1. Audit your current behavior. What's out of sync with who you want to be? Every rebranding starts with a quiet shock. Looking in the mirror and realizing your reputation, the one you project to the world, doesn't quite match the person you truly want to be. That's when it's time to audit your own behavior. No filters, no excuses, no sugarcoating. Think of it like a business owner reviewing their financial statements and finding they're spending more than they're making. If you don't face the numbers, nothing changes. And in this process, it's not enough to see what's wrong. You have to admit it. Because without admitting it, you'll just keep spraying perfume to cover up the smell of the problem. Now, this kind of audit isn't a 5-minute task. It's grabbing a pen and paper and writing down exactly where your habits and actions clash with the future you say you want. Do you want more executive presence, yet you keep showing up late to meetings? Want to be respected in your social circle but spend most of your time complaining instead of inspiring? That contrast is where the truth lives. Jim Rohn used to say that discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. But before you cross that bridge, you've got to know which side you're starting from. And here's the part that stings, because it does sting. When you audit your behavior, you're going to find pockets of self-sabotage so ingrained they feel normal. That's when you start asking yourself, if I keep acting like this, what will my life look like 12 or 18 months from now? That question cracks the door wide open, because the answer will lead you straight to the next step, surgically removing the behaviors that are keeping you stuck. Step 2. Stop self-sabotage before adding new habits. You know what most people do? They realize they're unhappy with their reputation, decide to start rebranding themselves, and, full of energy, start adding new habits, as if they were decorating an old house without fixing the roof first. It's like installing luxury finishes in a building with cracks in the foundation. Self-sabotage is that crack. If you don't put a complete stop to the behaviors that erode your confidence and consistency, any effort to improve will eventually collapse. And self-sabotage isn't just procrastinating or eating what you know you shouldn't. It's coming home and watching 3 hours of TV while claiming you don't have time to work on the project that could change your life. It's surrounding yourself with friends who don't respect your personal standards because it's easier than saying no. It's accepting tasks that lead nowhere just to avoid the discomfort of refusing. Risk management here means cutting off the situations and behaviors that drag you down, before you even think about planting something new. The interesting thing is, when you cut a bad habit, you create a vacuum. And that vacuum is powerful. It demands to be filled. But if you don't stop the self-sabotage first, you'll just fill it with more of the same. So before you focus on adding daily reading, a morning workout, or meditation, ask yourself, what do I need to remove today so that any new habit has space to grow? That internal cleanup prepares the ground for the next step, redesigning your environment so it works in your favor. Step 3. Redesign your environment. People plus places. If there's one thing that shapes your behavior more than you realize, It's your environment. You can't expect to change your life while keeping the same setting that feeds old habits. Personal rebranding requires careful curation. Who's around you and where you spend your time. Your social circle works like a thermostat for your life. If you surround yourself with people who live by low standards, they'll pull your temperature down too. And the reverse is true. Friends with discipline and integrity will raise your game without you even noticing. The place where you live and work also speaks louder than you think. Want focus? Don't set up your workspace in the middle of the living room with the TV on. Want more executive presence? Clean your desk. Get rid of that pile of papers that practically invites procrastination. And, if necessary, move. Jim Rohn used to say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I'd add that you're also the average of the 5 places you spend the most time in. If those places don't reflect the future you want, it's time to redraw the map. When you adjust your people and places, you'll start to feel a quiet shift in your reputation. Suddenly, invitations to high-risk situations drop, conversations become richer, and the overall energy changes. This new environment doesn't just support your habit changes, it practically forces you to stay consistent. And that solid foundation is essential before moving to the next step, protecting your brand from any slip that could cost you dearly. Step 4. Protect your brand by avoiding high-risk situations. A personal brand is like a castle. It can take years to build but can be brought down in a single careless night. And I'm not just talking about big scandals. Sometimes, all it takes is one inconsistent action to damage the trust you spent months earning. That's why protecting your reputation requires constant risk management. Avoiding high-risk situations isn't about living in fear, it's about acting strategically. It's thinking twice before accepting invitations, joining certain conversations, or even posting something in the heat of the moment. Take, for example, a professional who wants to be known for integrity and executive presence, yet goes to the same bar every weekend where they've already lost control more than once. It's like an athlete who trains hard but ignores their diet. Sooner or later, the results will suffer. Protecting your brand means saying no, even when yes sounds more fun in the moment. It's having the patience to see that short-term pleasure is often the thief of long-term respect. And here's a detail few people notice. Protecting your brand isn't just about avoiding the negative, it's also about building a track record of consistency that inspires trust. This means that while you avoid high-risk situations, you should also intentionally put yourself in environments and interactions that reinforce the values you want to live by. Once you master this discipline, you're ready for the next step, a long-term commitment that separates those who try from those who truly change. Step 5. Commit for the long term. Expect 12 to 18 months before others notice the change. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear. Rebranding isn't instant. Your reputation is a lagging indicator. It takes time to reflect the changes you've already been living behind the scenes. It's like planting a tree. You water, nurture, and fertilize. But for months, it looks like nothing's happening. Then, one day, the leaves start to appear. The problem is, many people quit before reaching that point because they want applause in the first week. But consistency is the entry price for real recognition. This is where patience becomes one of your greatest virtues. If you're truly committed, you'll keep working on your personal standards and living your values even when no one notices. You'll maintain integrity in the smallest details, even when no one's watching. And believe me, people are watching much more than you think. They just don't say anything until it becomes impossible to ignore. That's when respect shows up, and not before. The long term also separates the genuine from the costume wearers. Those who change on impulse without deeply changing their behavior go back to old patterns in weeks. But those who understand that process matters more than instant results keep moving forward steadily. No rush, no pause. And when that consistency solidifies, you discover something powerful. The pain that once felt heavy can now turn into the fuel that drives you even further. Step 6. Use pain as leverage when motivation fades. Motivation is like the weather. It changes fast. One day it's sunny, the next it's pouring. If your rebranding depends solely on motivation, your reputation will never get off the ground. That's why pain, the uncomfortable kind that pokes at you when you're alone, can become your most reliable engine. The pain of seeing where you are compared to where you could be creates a kind of energy that doesn't depend on passing inspiration. Jim Rohn used to say there are two forces that move people: inspiration and pain. And often, pain is the more honest of the two. The key is not to run from it. Instead of numbing it with distractions, face it. If the scale shows a number that doesn't match your personal standards, look at it. If your bank statement doesn't reflect the work you believe you deserve, analyze it. That kind of brutal honesty is a catalyst. It forces you to either change your behavior or accept living in inconsistency. And believe me, the pain of discipline is always less than the pain of regret. When you learn to turn discomfort into action, you gain an advantage few have. Because motivation comes and goes, but pain, when used well, is persistent. It won't let you forget what's at stake. And over time, each step you take in that energy turns into consistency. And that's when you begin to live your values naturally, without conscious effort, because the process has already taken root. Step 7. Live your values consistently until it becomes natural. When you start rebranding yourself, living your values can feel like a conscious effort, almost forced. It's like learning to drive. At first, every movement takes focus. But with consistency, those personal standards become second nature. Integrity stops being a decision and becomes your default way of acting. And the most interesting part is that when this happens, others notice before you do. The trust people start placing in you doesn't come just from what you say, but from what you repeat every day. That means your behavior becomes predictable, in the best way. Friends, clients, your team. They all know they can count on you because they've seen your track record. Your executive presence stops being a role you play and becomes your essence. It's no longer a costume for special occasions, but an extension of who you truly are. And that predictability builds a solid reputation that won't crumble at the first storm. In the end, living your values consistently is the point where process beats results. Because when the way you live matches the image you want, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. People feel it. And that's when your social circle changes, the environment you've built thrives, and the cycle feeds itself. And then, well, then you realize you've become someone else without even noticing the exact moment it happened. Now that you know exactly where to start, tell me this. How many more years will you accept living with a reputation that doesn't reflect who you really are? How many projects, opportunities, and relationships have passed you by because your behavior wasn't aligned with your values? Life doesn't wait, and every day without action is another brick in the wall between who you are and who you could be. The question is simple. Will you let self-sabotage keep writing your script, or will you take the lead and rewrite your story? Because trust and consistency aren't built on occasional grand gestures, but on small choices repeated every single day. Your social circle, your environment, the way you manage risks, all of it is shaping your brand right now, whether you realize it or not. So if you're ready to flip the switch, don't wait for the right moment. It's now. Start applying what you've learned today, and before you go, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone you know needs to hear this. That way, you won't just transform your own life, you might inspire someone else to do the same.